We are back with match number 4 coming right up for you guys here at Grandmasters Asia Pacific. And we've got che0nsu versus Flurry coming up. And Flurry, known as a rogue specialist, is not going to be on rogue today. He has bringing warrior, and I do think that's important for him. Not specifically being warrior, but just not being rogue every week is something that's difficult to do when you're really into a class. But we will check out che0nsu's list first. And look, it's mage. There's a few cool cards in there. But I'm just going to talk about something a little bit more interesting as well, because che0nsu's tertiary deck, that we can't see right now, but I'll describe it, I'll use my words,
Paint us a picture.
is built as a anti-mirror deck, so it wants to beat the other mage, right? He runs a Dalaran Librarian, which silences the minions either side of it. So when your opponents are freezing your board and you do that back and forth of I freeze and you freeze and I freeze, and the first person to attack normally gets to win, or the first person to run out freezes loses, he gets to silence and potentially push up to 16, maybe even more damage based on the minions. And I think that inclusion is sick. I think it's very, very cool.
I think it's very, very cool. We've seen, I mean, kind of going away from the deck list because, again, it's mage. You've seen it before. I think I saw one of the players who qualified to Seoul recently, I think it was last night, I believe called che0nsu is his name, is playing Nat Pagel in his anti-mage sideboard for the mirror because he's saying you can throw it down on turn 2. Mage rarely is going to kill it, and you just draw a whole bunch of cards.
Okay.
I mean, we're seeing more and more innovation, with how you counter the mage. I think it's very interesting.
I like it. But let's check out Flurry's list as well, and I'm not going to blow anyone's minds. It's warrior, and it's bomb warrior. So this looks, again, like just the standard, I would say. There's a couple of small things, the one town crier, there's the one spellbreaker there, the one omega devastator, which creates the space. But in general, it's bomb warrior versus mage.
Yep.
This is a common matchup of this meta, and it's two of the top decks going up against each other. So it's less about right now, about what cards are in the deck, and more about the actual matchup and the game itself and how the players play it.
And this is a very interesting matchup indeed. Like, just because we are dismissive of the cards in the deck, it does not mean that it's not an interesting matchup. It's just one that we know how it works at this point, really, in terms of the inclusions. But at the same time, the way that you play this can be very, very interesting because the evolution I keep talking about of the way that mage has been played, it can work in your favor against warrior, playing more aggressively with minions out early on. But it doesn't necessarily always work out aggressively, because the giant game plan, the more traditional way of playing the mage, can just be very, very strong. Because you throw down these giants, it's not quite big enough to warrant a brawl, it's not quite small enough to be dealt with a shield slam. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic that you have to strike in terms of how you counteract the warrior.
Yeah, and just give you an overall standings update. Flurry currently, I'll say currently as in before today started, was sat at 4th place in Division A with 5 wins. And the two people below him, Tom and Rivius, were both also on 5 wins, and Staz below that only on 4, and Surrender above only on 6. So Division A, everything up for grabs, even with only a few matches left of the GM Season 1. And che0nsu, on the other hand, is bringing up the rear end of the division as a 2 wins and 8 losses. There we go, I can do maths. I was looking at the tiebreak score instead, and I was like, that doesn't add up to the correct number. But yeah, the 2 wins and 8 losses, he is bottom. I am almost certain in the fact that he cannot qualify to top 3, but he can make waves for everyone else, which is the important part right now.
The mischief maker. With his starting hand, it's not bad. It would be very, very good if he was on the coin. Like, if he was on the coin, this hand would be close to the nuts. But given that he's on the play instead, it's going to be a little bit longer for che0nsu before he can actually get rolling with this giant Conjurer's hand.
Yeah, on the other hand, though, Flurry has coin 3-drop into 3-drop into the Wrench Caliber into Boom, so he's looking at the get 'em approach.
Flurry does have what is commonly referred to as the Giga Nuts. This is insane. Like, this is one of the main things that I think players realized against Mage, is that the cards you substitute into tech against the Mage, it's not even necessarily the big game hunters and the super colliders, although those are good. Like, Elec is one of the best anti-Mage cards because you just kill them.
Yeah, I mean, when I was playing a decent amount of ladder with Bomb Warrior, I was putting in Korkon Elites in the deck when I was facing a lot of mage, because it's just a solid drop you can play. It applies pressure, it can like snipe lethal out of nowhere when you've just got 4 damage from hand, which is unlikely for warrior, as well as the extra bombs going off. So it was pretty solid, and I prefer that approach over the whole like double BGH, double super collider.
And it's pretty important for Flurry that he did find this early start, not only because, again, it maximizes his chances of finding an early lethal, but also to counteract this Luna, which is now found for che0nsu. If this had been left unchecked going into turn 3, this could be pretty scary. But now for che0nsu, you know, it can be dealt with on board, right? Like, he just can't play it. Or maybe he can. Maybe
does he have to? I don't know, yeah. Does he?
I mean, it's just the fact that the Giant is in hand, right? So every card that he expends rather than holding for a cheaper Giant is miserable.
I was honestly wondering whether he goes Luna, Invocation, Cyclone, just to get something on the board to fight back. You gain a spell, you gain a 2/2 and a 2/4. Maybe that's good enough. It's a long stretch and a long shot, so I'm not saying it's correct. I think it is probably the overall safer play or more correct play, but still, it's something you've got to consider when you're this far behind.
I definitely like holding on to it. I think that would have just thrown away too many cards, and it would have to hit literally exactly second Evocation to have another card to play to draw with the Luna.
I think now Evocation Giant is a must.
Well, it's not playable on this turn, right? It would go to 5 mana.
Evocation Giant would be a must if you could do
Were it possible.
So then the key is next turn he has to make sure it's available. Is he gonna?
Or am I losing my mind?
I think. Well, if he does this, then does he have to like conjure it's the 2-drop? If that's the plan of getting the 2-drop out, I don't know.
That sounds very bad. I mean, he's just dying at the moment, but from where che0nsu sat, he just has to pray that the follow-up isn't there.
Yeah, he just has to Giant into Giant and hope it at least stabilizes the game.
Yeah. So if he goes Giant on 5, that would mean that the following turn, Evocation Giant Conjurer's Calling not available, which makes it even harder. Like, I think as it currently stands, che0nsu's best situation is he draws Sorcerer's Apprentice off the top, and then just absolutely pops off with Luna.
Well,
Flurry here will think for a second, and then he will hit his opponent in the face with everything he possibly can.
Yes, for the value of 10.
Or, okay, there is some consideration for hero power on this turn, because powering up the shield slams, especially when he has a Rover on board, does start to open him up for double shield slam on the following turn. So it wasn't as easy as it looked, but you do just swing face with the wrench card.
I think even if you were leaning down that path as heavily as possible, you have Militia Commander, which is a better shield slam right now. You know, just because it's guaranteed. So I think with the Militia Commander, really I think you do it anyway, but it really pushes it over the edge that you just say, well, Militia Commander plus a 3/3 kills a Giant.
che0nsu now, if he does go for the Mountain Giant, will take exactly 10 damage, which will bring him down to exactly 1 bomb killing him.
And there'll be, what, 5 in the deck? No, 6,
there
sorry.
6
because he goblined after the Alec.
Yeah. I mean, he's almost,
he has to, though.
He'll almost have more cards in his deck than he started with. Correction, he will have the same amount of cards in his deck as he started with. As Flurry says, oh, sorry, mate, I think you dropped this. Let me get that for you.
I didn't realize he threw him a firecracker.
Okay, well, yeah. I guess he doesn't have to go for the Clockwork Goblin, right? Because the way this goes wrong is if he pushes everything face, the bomb doesn't go off, and then he's met with, I don't know, freeze Conjurer's Calling. I think this is probably safer.
Yeah, I think for this one turn you kill the Giant, and if something funky happens next turn, you still have Goblin to play, and probably it's unlikely this Elec dies next turn. It's doable, but unlikely. So yeah, I think this is absolutely fine. Oh, missed. And che0nsu drew a freeze.
Yep,
technically not dead.
He needs to go. He needs to make. Oh no, the weapon's gone, so he doesn't need a frostbolt.
He's just a Cyclone, right? Just to keep his hand count large.
So how does he best do that? Does he go? I mean, he could go Stargazer, Luna, Frost Nova, Evocation, Cyclone.
Wouldn't you rather draw more? So you can Nova Intellect, but then he probably.
He doesn't get the Luna right. Like, he draws 1 extra card by going for the Intellect.
I'm just thinking
doesn't develop a Luna.
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
I mean, does he even want to draw? Right, is the question, because then he gets closer to just dying.
He does, but he needs to chain freeze if he's going to win.
He has to draw. Nice Dr. Boom, by the way, as well for Flurry.
It's not even good. You don't even need it. It's overkill. It's just a win more card.
That kind of viscerally hurt me to hear you say that.
I mean, is it factually incorrect? Dr. Boom makes you win more?
I mean, it does make you win
yeah,
more.
there you go.
You're not wrong.
Tell me I'm wrong, Derek. You can't. There's even just a Dynomatic off the top to be like, nice. He even did it. It was
absolutely nails the Luna. I'm sorry, what? Did he even realize that the Elec was not a mech? I don't think he even did.
I don't think he did. I don't think he did. I think the freeze distracted him from the fact that there was no mechanical plates on that Elec. It's like, it's frozen, it must be a mech.
Oh my god. Alright, Flurry is a lad. That was an absolute mad lad play.
Even I can spot that. It's the fact he landed it as well.
Oh, goodness. That is the epitome of just win. And there it is. Lethal available to Flurry even without the bombs.
Maybe one of the best games of Hearthstone I've ever read the Joker card.
I mean,
that was just funny.
It may have been one of the best games of Hearthstone. It was not a game of Hearthstone at the same time. Flurry just had the dream hand there with the perfect curve, all the bombs as well. Like, che0nsu did have some alternate lines he could have taken with even holding onto the Giant for an extra turn and then going for Giant Evocation, or Evocation Giant Conjurer's Calling on the following turn. I don't think that would have got him there even then, even if he'd hit double Grave Horror.
Flurry also had different lines he could have taken, and not Dynomatic when there's an Elec on his board.
Why would you do that when you know you're going to kill the Luna, though?
That's just me being a mere mortal and not a true lad like Flurry. That's going to be it for game number 1 as Flurry takes the win over che0nsu. We're going to take a quick break to recover ourselves and maybe just inform Flurry that Alecs are not mechs. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mocked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist. And each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of bliss. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone, all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No big bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hear it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
we are back, and it's game number 2 coming right up. che0nsu versus Flurry, and that was rapid in game number 1. Flurry just curved and killed him, and then did a weird thing with the Dynamatic that we won't keep talking about because I'll probably laugh too much.
I mean, the weird thing is he didn't even play that well. Like, he obviously had the perfect curve, but the only real decision point for him was the Dynamatic, which was a horrible play. But either way, let's move on. Let's move on.
Let's check out the list, because the players have switched now, as is their right to do in Specialists. You get to see the Dalaran Librarian, but not in this game, as it's the secondary list that che0nsu's moved to, so you can see, and it makes sense. And Archmage and Snyder's 2 Astromancers for more late game punch, and a Swamp Ooze and a Harrison Jones for that weapon removal. Losing 2 Novas, Rabble Bouncer, Doomsday, and a Sea Giant, and funny enough, if the game goes anything like the previous game, this isn't a good change, is it?
That's fair. I mean, the Acidic Swamp Ooze will obviously help. The point I would make then is it's very unlikely to go like last game.
That is true, yes.
And even if it does go like that again, I don't think Frost Nova will even help all that much against an onslaught like that. But either way, I think these are all the cards you're very happy to substitute out, because against Warrior, the vast majority of the time, Rabble Bouncer and Sea Giant sit in your hand for the whole game, and you just have to go play them on turn 10.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's check out Flurry's switch to the tertiary list. So he's added an Omega Devastator, 2 BGH, 2 Super Gliders, and then got rid of basically some of the early game and that pesky Dynamatic that stupidly targeted his own minion last game. And this is the very, very standard anti-mage as the Warrior build. I still don't... Like I said to you yesterday, I want to look at the stats for, say, for example, this tertiary deck versus Mage throughout GM, and see how good its win rate actually is. Because although obviously the Mage list normally alters its build to help, I just want to see the impact, because these cards, to this extent, don't feel as good as more aggressive cards in my experience. But I am not a professional Hearthstone player, so I may just be wrong.
Yeah, I think the really crucial card that is being lost there is the Snip Snap. That feels terrible, in my opinion, to take out. Personally, I think I would have liked to see. Yes, well, exactly. It's just, I mean, you're joking, but it's a fantastic card. You just never want to take that out, especially in such a mech-centric deck as Bomb Warrior. And so I think, again, you know, I haven't tested it as much as Flurry with this exact matchup, but generally I'm in favor of substituting out slightly fewer cards than necessary and keeping the core powerhouse cards in there. Right. Because obviously, if you hit exactly 1 Mountain Giant on curve with Big Game Hunter, that's better than a Snip Snap.
Yes, yes.
But how often does that actually happen versus how good is Snip Snap on average? And I would guess that Snip Snap is slightly better on average than having 2 BGHs and 2 Super Colliders, which might be slight overkill. But either way, Flurry, it definitely dampens his ability to go for a powerful, aggressive game plan, but powers up his reactivity.
Okay, well, game number 2. Is it going to go as quickly as last game? Let's find out. There is the early Acidic Swamp Ooze, and maybe most importantly, the Sorcerer's Apprentice as well, along with then you've got the Buffoon, you've got the Invocation. So really all of this is stacking together pretty well, and Flurry doesn't really have an answer to this Apprentice.
Yep, there is no copy of Weapons Project in the deck for Flurry, so Hero Power, Coin, Shield Slam was his best response to kill it off here, which means that che0nsu was very, very likely to just be able to play the Banana Buffoon here, get some buffs rolling.
And this also, though, with the Town Crier, che0nsu's probably going to be under the estimation that he's likely to lose this Sorcerer's Apprentice next turn outside of getting a Mirror Image.
It's pretty much Mirror Image, not the Mirror Entity, that's the wrong one. But Arcane Intellect feels like a very decent consolation prize.
Because not only is there it likely to be a Militia Commander in hand from that Town Crier, there's also Wrench Caliber in the deck, full stop, that can be coined out as well.
Yeah. Holding back on the bananas, though, I think is an interesting play, but probably quite a wise one, actually, because, again, a Town Crier has hit the board, so that means there is a high chance that Militia Commander is in hand. So even if there was a double buff with bananas, it gets traded at least, even if it's an even trade. And there could also be the Wrench Caliber, which we do see that Flurry has access to. And with this play from che0nsu, he gets the powerful early game start, so he's not falling behind on board. And he also has the follow-up of Mountain Giant, which I think is quite reserved play, but it's clever to not go all in here.
Yeah, and you can see che0nsu wants to go for that Mountain Giant because he also could have just dumped 2 bananas on these minions and made them a bit chunkier, but having the Mountain Giant next turn is just going to be so much more powerful because these minions are going to demand some level of respect from Flurry, which means cards like Militia Commander come out and don't go out against the Mountain Giant. What are you laughing at me for?
Oh, I just turned around. I didn't realize that you'd stood up and you were just a lot closer to me than I was expecting.
Just wait till you hear my voice through Derek's mic, and then he gets really scared.
Infinite Raven.
So pretty straightforward. It's what che0nsu was setting up for, and now the big question is, can Flurry deal with this Mountain Giant? And the answer is, nope. No, we can't.
Not quite.
Might have to just go on Mega Devastator here.
He really, really does not want to be hit with a value trade into Conjurer's Calling, or even just face Conjurer's Calling. But,
well, that's
I mean, how can
at,
he even play around that?
At least, if the value trade happens, at least you gave yourself a chance to kill off the Giant. Because otherwise, you can't shield block, because that armor just disappears.
Right, but then is his best response to say, okay, this current hand does not beat Conjurer's Calling if che0nsu has it. So is my best shot to draw with the shield block? Even though that means he is not able to go shield block, hero power, shield slam next turn, it gets him closer to Brawl, gets him closer to to Big Game Hunter, and it gets him closer to Super Collider, most importantly.
That's true.
I think it's closer than it looked. But
yeah,
this is fine.
I think I would always lean towards the minion play, but you're definitely not wrong. There are a lot of cards in the deck that next turn could snipe a Giant.
I mean, this still sets up, right? If there isn't a Conjurer's Calling, which there isn't, Flurry can go trade shield block, hero, shield slam, and be very happy.
And also, you know, funnily enough, the Alec might be more of a priority trade target for che0nsu than the Devastator, right?
Very
because
arguable.
If he doesn't trade with it, then maybe Flurry has Goblin, hero power, shield slam or something, and then you're just like, oh, well, he got 2 bombs and he killed my Giant. It's kind of a nice play actually going for the Alec. I think I would have naturally snapped the Devastator just as the chunkier minion.
A very nice option there off of the magic trick. I think che0nsu was actually primarily looking for either some kind of freeze, either the Ray of Frost or the Frostbolt there, in order to protect his Giant for an extra turn. But, I mean, you're obviously not upset at finding a Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah, and you look at this now, che0nsu committing to making the Giant as big as possible to try and make it not die. Although he did keep 1 banana, which surprised me a little bit.
What does that mean? He summons off the Astromancer, so there will be 6 cards in hand, so he goes from 5 drops to 6 drops next turn by holding on to it.
I guess it doesn't change this either, does it?
Yeah.
Is the important thing as well.
That's true.
Because if it meant he had to armor up versus not armoring up, well, the 1 banana did that job anyway, right?
Yeah.
So the 2 bananas just doesn't make a difference.
Right, exactly. It brought him out of Militia Commander range, but kept him still within the shield slam range. As che0nsu looks relatively unsure as to whether he should be going for the Astromancer or the Giant. I was expecting a slam Astromancer, I have to be honest. Because this is going into Dr. Boom turn, right? So you just want to put the most amount of stats on board possible. Or at least the scariest board possible, right? Which doesn't always correlate to the highest amount of stats on board as Mage, because mana cost plays a big effect with Conjurer's Calling.
Most importantly, yeah, like this is overall, I think, scary, right?
I don't know if I agree, though, because Astromancer summoned a 6-drop there, right? With 6 other cards in hand. So a 6-drop is likely to be pretty good. And then the 7-drop of Astromancer that's a 7-mana 5/5, which is a premium Conjurer's Calling target.
It is, but don't 7-drops... They're not that good though, right? 7-drops now?
They're all right. I mean, they're obviously not as good as a 7/8 or an 8/8.
Yeah, so...
But you have the 6. You have a 6-drop with it, which is a huge difference.
It's tough, right? Because the thing with the Giant is the Giant's higher priority solo and has much more consistency with the Conjurer's Calling. It means you're going to get 2 really good minions with it no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's close. I guess it really heavily depends on how good the 6-drop is, right?
What we do see now, though, is che0nsu saying, you know what? I'm going all in here. You'd better have either Brawl or Super Collider or Big Game Hunter. Thankfully for him, Flurry has literally none of those.
Yeah, it looks like che0nsu is going to be getting his revenge for game number 1, because this is, although a little bit more competitive earlier in the game, is looking quite one-sided now for che0nsu.
That's definitely
as he still
true.
has plenty of gas in the tank. Double Arcane Intellect in hand. The Luna, he's got Harrison for a weapon that comes down.
He's not slowing down
he's got
anytime soon.
so much juice.
Yeah.
He can very effectively control the summon from the Astromancer as well with his hand.
That's true.
Okay then.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the best. I'm not
I
sure
feel
if
like
8.
9s are solid now.
Yeah, because like it used to be that 8s were better because there were a few bad 9s, but there's some bad 8 cost cards now.
Yeah,
and
better 9
7s are
drops.
pretty underwhelming in general.
Because 9 drop gained the rush, right?
That's true. Mulch Muncher, yeah, did get a little bit better. And it can obviously get the real dreams like King Crush in particular.
And actual dreams like Ysera.
Sure. Still some very strong cards being shown now for che0nsu. It's kind of a difficult point he has to put himself in now, where I think he can pretty decisively say Flurry does not have Brawl. Like the play last time where there were 3 giants in play.
Yeah.
I think you would be, if Flurry had it, he would very, very likely throw down a 3-drop and Brawl. Much, much more likely over what we saw, which was top deck big game hunter to be able to clear off one of the minions. So going fairly all in here, I think is good from che0nsu. I think Flurry is showing weakness, and che0nsu should go for the throat.
Yeah, and I think if Flurry went for the draw into, if I don't draw anything, I could brawl.
Yeah.
Then, and he's baiting a bigger brawl with this kind of health, then fine. Flurry's a god, and that happened, you know. But I think as che0nsu, you definitely do go more aggressive overall, but this just doesn't look good enough.
What are we looking at now? Big game hunter.
Concede.
Yep. So Ziliax, like Omega Devastator Ziliax, gets up to 7, which is just not quite enough. I think that has to be his best shot though, because even if it just heals for 7, that gets him up to 18, which means even a Conjurer's Calling on his 4-drop would keep him alive.
What about?
Just.
I was looking at like Eternium Rover Ziliax.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can gain additional
You get the
armor.
hero power as well.
And yeah, plus hero power doesn't quite add up that nicely.
Maybe that is just
But
better.
maybe you get more overall.
Yeah, because it saves the Devastator as well, right? Which is a huge
Which
facet.
next turn you can snipe.
Yes.
Oh, I love that fuse thing. This would be a good time for a master.
Oh, okay, I guess this keeps him alive as well.
Okay.
Just about.
I guess next turn he has Omega Devastator sniped
And the
into
Ziliax. Yeah. Okay, I like this play.
This was, I
This
didn't
was
even
smart.
look at this.
Yeah.
I looked at BGH, then I looked at Ziliax, and I think I got too stuck in the fact that you had to play Ziliax last turn, and Flurry found a way not to. And this could pay off for him in spades.
It could. 2 damage off lethal, I believe, with 11 potential now for che0nsu.
What to do? What to do?
But I mean, there's so many other lines you can go for, right? Like, given that there's still represented clearly no Brawl.
Could just go for
Astromancer. Yeah. Or just keep going with the Conjurer's Callings here.
Oh, do you just drop the Sea Giant?
Well, he wants to be in a position where Super Collider is never an option. And I think this does the best job of that possible.
And also as well, you in matchups like this, you get Sea Giant down when you can.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Save the best for last.
Now, even instead of the Ziliax, still holding back on it because he's saying, you just don't have burst damage in the deck. This is quite brave play from Flurry, but it's very logical.
And this might look like an order lull because he used the minion that could attack face to trade and not the rush minion, but this leaves a mech on the board, which means he can attach Ziliax and go face even if there's no targets next turn.
If I was in Twitch chat, I still would have said order lull.
Oh, I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
It's just a done thing, isn't it?
Exactly, it's just polite.
Twitch chat etiquette to the max.
My calculations.
che0nsu, however, no signs of slowing whatsoever. Not a bad outcome either.
Oh, the Kaboom's actually really good. I guess he... Oh, he's not quite got enough mana to do magical things. Well, this is often the case in Hearthstone if you had the limited mana.
This would be a good time for
well, if we see Ziliax and Dynamatic, like Ziliax magnetized on trade into the 8-drop, and then Dynamatic trade.
Yeah, I
should clear the board every time.
That's what I mean. There are just ways that it gets a little bit weird.
Yes. In the worst case, the 5/5 survives at like 1 health.
Right. He's just gonna rush to Goblin.
Somebody order a bomb.
So I guess
I don't actually know if I like this one, because in the worst case scenario, Dynamatic could still have rushed into the banana buffoon.
Right, but doesn't this still happen in worst case scenario? So he's doing
Right,
this.
but there was a potential upside with Dynamatic that it could have cleared the board completely.
Sure, I guess so. He's keeping Dynamatic for a better turn next turn to say that it's
That's
much
fair.
more. You know, instead of saying it could be great or it could be bad, it's just I'll take the okay option.
Well, no, because
go.
the bad state with Dynamatic is the same. In the worst case scenario, it's identical pretty much.
Okay, I'll say bad as in he doesn't have a Dynamatic in hand.
Oh, okay.
Is the bad side
Yeah,
of it,
yeah,
right?
fair enough.
Whereas now he has a very similar looking board if it went wrong,
No, good
and
point.
he has a Dynamatic in hand for the turn after.
Yeah, I'm not certain that's a trade that's good, a trade-off that's good enough to not go for the potential
me neither.
upside.
Me
but,
neither, yeah.
I mean, because look at the punish here, right? It's huge. The Ziliax can just, or the Omega Devastator can just be cleared off with a huge amount of banana bombs.
Most importantly, who's going to conjure it? I was going to say the problem there was che0nsu would have lost the Astromancer. So I actually love this play.
And what it now means is that with the Fireball being found as well,
That's 5 damage.
Flurry could just die right now. And if he doesn't die right now, he will die next turn. Although I guess his one saving grace is the fact that half-time Scavenger was given, which means he can survive against Fireball Ping.
What is Hearthstone?
Mage giveth and mage taketh away.
Yeah. Also, Omega Assembly into another Ziliax can help.
However, even more interestingly, he would have to kill off the Darkshire Moonkin to not just die to the Fireball, even if he heals.
And a problem is that to do the trades, he has to attack first, which means he's not going to heal.
Yeah.
Or else he couldn't trade this way.
He goes with the full board clear.
Not expecting the Fireball.
Yeah, I mean, how can you? You've got to just pray it's not there. As che0nsu with a much more convincing looking game there.
Yeah.
Just, I think it was such a beautiful recognition of realizing what is your opponent's weakness game to game and exploiting that. che0nsu realized there's no Brawl, so he didn't play around Brawl, and he was rewarded for it.
Yeah, I also really like the Conjurers on the Ziliax Devastator.
Yeah.
Because the trade could have happened, but his Astromancer dies, and then for what? You know, nothing. So the Conjurers on the minion, which means you have to deal with 2 4-drops instead of the massive Ziliax buff, and then pushing the damage to face was fantastic. I thought that was really, really good.
It's like plus 14 health, right? Because you don't sink 7 in, and it doesn't heal for 7 as well. I mean, it was even more than that. It was like, because it was 8 attack or something. Like, it was plus 16.
Attack,
It's just absurd the amount of difference it makes. So I agree, it was definitely the way to go.
It was a really good play from che0nsu, and he's got to feel, at least now, a little bit better after game number 1, because game 1 must just feel bad, right? You queue up, game 1 happened, you blink, you died, something went wrong, you didn't even really get to play the game, whereas at least game 2, che0nsu made a really good effort of it and ended up taking a game over Flurry, and everything is evened up now. We are going to be going to a game number 3, and I don't imagine the players are going to change decks. I can't see it.
I think they're definitely going to stick on the same one. Like, we have seen a little bit of mind games here this week in specific with terms of which deck you switch to, even when it's a deck you specifically brought to target the class you're facing. But I think, you know, it's just going to be sticking with their secondary decks here, or secondary and tertiary decks, in order to fight back against the strategies. Because for che0nsu there in particular, it was looking very, very strong because he drew a lot of the tech cards he put in there. The Ooze, the Astromancers as well.
Yeah, the Harrison is back back up.
Right, exactly. It was still there for the follow-up. However, for Flurry, he did not draw a lot of the tech cards he put in. He did get the double BGH at a later date, but it was a little bit too slow. He didn't find them on curve, which would have made a big difference.
Yeah, it really was. The BGHs came where it was always, oh, my opponent's got a few big guys. I can BGH one, do this to another, as opposed to giant into BGH as an answer. But also with che0nsu knowing that that's the case, it isn't like a regular matchup where you go Mage versus Warrior Sound Ladder, where I would always just play a giant on curve and just say, well, if they've got it, they've got it. If they've not, I probably just win. Whereas when you know your opponent has more stuff that can just destroy your giant, maybe you just play a little bit slower and try and play more into those Conjurer's Calling turns.
And I think this matchup does get much more interesting when you introduce the extra sideboarded cards on both sides, because I feel like the lean builds of Mage, they actually kind of struggle against Born Warrior a lot of the time. It's more so against Control Warrior with the Dynamax or the Super Colliders that you'll really struggle, I think. But when you introduce both the ability to kill off the big minions and more big minions from the Mage, I think it can become a very like a real slugfest. Like, there's a lot of powerful cards being thrown back and forth, and it ends up in some very interesting scenarios. Yeah,
and we even saw then with those two matchups that we've had confirmation that they are sticking on those decks. Not too much of a surprise, but even then there was a chance before the Conjuring turn of the push that Flurry could have just won if he got another attack with that Ziliax minion. He heals to tons and then can keep fighting them and playing the game. So even with the tech cards, it stays close. And Derek just made a very happy looking face, I'll say, as looking at, I'm guessing, che0nsu's opening hand.
I Craigasmed. That is a fantastic hand for che0nsu. The Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Mana Cyclone. Like, it's not strictly the dream quite yet against Warrior, because you want to get something a little bit more beefy.
But you can do something.
Exactly. This can do disgustingly powerful things.
On the other hand, Flurry does have that Super Collider and a Clockwork Goblin, so a mixture of both his early game sort of curve that he will just want in general to put pressure on che0nsu, but also just one of those tech cards that just says, okay, you played Giant Conjurers, they're both just dead, and that's just it. Not all the time, of course, in some circumstances, but you get Magist.
Wow, this is such an interesting point from che0nsu. I'm really glad we saw that, because I was actually going to say, I think this is one of two mulligans. You either mulligan the Conjurer's Calling or everything but the Conjurer's Calling with this hand. It's one or the other, and it clearly sets out his game plan. And boy, oh boy, is he rewarded for his line of play here. We can see, even with the Astral Rift as well. Astral Rift, Banana Buffoon, Giant Coin Conjurer's Calling. Like, it's insane.
The funny problem is, with this Super Collider in hand, is that just going to be fun, like in a weird way, just countered with such a powerful early game from che0nsu that you would want every single game with one or two cards? Flurry can just keep up and just say, well, actually, it's fine. It's going to hurt me a little bit, but the Super Collider is absolutely massive.
Also, I realized as well, Astral Rift into Banana Buffoon overdraws a card, so this is correct.
You
I think
call yourself
che0nsu.
a mage god.
Sorry. I got overexcited. Astral Rift is a cool card, and I wanted to see what was in the box. As opposed to Banana Buffoon, which is always with the bananas. We get it, all right? Get a new thing.
Bananas.
Yeah. You wear them on your head. You sell them.
Does he sell them? I can't see a price. Maybe he just gives them away.
He's got like a box right.
Well, you've got to carry them. If he was giving them away, would he just stick them to himself and be like, yeah, just come and grab one? Because all the fur comes off. Oh.
I can safely say he would not do that. That sounds like a hellish existence. So who would want a furry banana from the Banana Buffoon? Oh. How
Okay,
did it
back
end up like this?
First week casting together APEC, going well. This giant is very, very cheap. Can't coin out the conjures yet, though.
This is a very, very bold giant if he decides to throw it down.
Yeah, I mean,
BGH, right? If it's there, he gets hyper punished.
this is. I mean, this is.
If it's not there, though, look at the payoff. I mean, there's other ways now because. I mean, it'd have to be shield block double shield slam, right? Or hero power double shield. Oh no, hero power double shield slam wouldn't even do it. Like, It has to be the shield block, double shield slam to clear it off.
Yeah, I was looking at if anything weird happens with a Lucky Dynamancer because, you know, it's Flurry.
Yeah.
And I don't think it can, so I think just double shield slam. And I think you're okay with it. You have Collider for afterwards.
Yeah.
You have Collider. You don't need the second shield slam.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if he had Brawl in hand, I think you'd honestly leave it up, because the worst thing that can happen then is either double Conjurers or Khadgar Conjurers.
And you take 8.
Exactly.
You're not taking 16 into a Brawl.
Yeah.
So it's fine. But this is...
But I think this is... I agree, this is a necessary play.
This is a problem for che0nsu now, because this turn just isn't great at all.
So he's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards, I think, in hand at the moment for che0nsu. So he doesn't have to play out a card on this turn.
He doesn't, but giving your warrior opponent time
Right.
is a little bit scary.
Sorry, I should say the reason why I'm saying he wants to conserve cards at the moment is he's looking, I would imagine, at Coin Astromancer next turn, at which point he would rather get 8 drops as opposed to 7 drops, I think. But it's probably a worthy trade-off to get the taunt in play now. Yeah, it's probably
And to not pass.
yes. Well, exactly.
Yeah,
it protects
the
him.
worry.
Yeah.
Coin banana. Just to make it actually clear this board if it trades into it. Reasonable, actually.
Yeah.
It lowers the power of the Astromancer play, of course, but he still has Arcane Intellect. He still has Conjurer's Coin if this minion's left alive.
Man, che0nsu does not like playing Astromancer, does he? He's been super hesitant with them all game. And I mean, you know, it makes sense, right? He can't just go for the Astromancer while he's behind on board, because then if he is met with Super Collider or Big Game Hunter, he's in a miserable spot.
Yeah.
And it's not like he has nothing he can do on the next few turns, because if this survives,
that's it.
Conjurer's Calling is insane.
He's got Arcane Intellect as well, got Astral Rift, he's got tons of stuff. He's got Khadgar Conjurers next turn if he really wants it.
Not quite the dream turn here for Flurry, though, with Trade the Militia Commander Dynamatic just falling short because of the... Oh no, wait, if the banana hadn't come down, it still would because of the extra health. But either way, it does demand the trade-in of the Clockwork Goblin as well.
He has to put the Rover on the board, though, so at least he has something next turn. And I think the longer che0nsu doesn't do much or doesn't do anything highly impactful, the more time Flurry's just got to, 1, get to turn 10 to play Assembly, and 2, maybe draw Boom and get some of those things active.
Starting to see the downside, though, for Flurry with this situation where, you know, he's got the removal aplenty in the Super Collider and the Brawl, but without the follow-up to go with it. Like, if this board is cleared, it's not even that good.
Funnily enough, it's a great way to play around Super Collider, isn't it? Just don't play minions. Just don't play more than 1 minions. It's a bad weapon.
It's a great way to play around every piece of removal in Hearthstone by never developing.
Can't move it if it's not there.
My favorite way to play around losing Hearthstone is to not play.
Mine's to win.
Yeah, I'm still figuring that one out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm getting there.
Flurry just having to bite the bullet here and just go for the early assembly just to say, well, I need something better to do. I basically just have removal in hand and nothing to do on the board.
I think it's probably got to be the Devastator here, unless he's looking at filling out. Actually, having the ability to go 5-drop, 3-drop next turn is pretty tempting.
So you want the Collider equipped this
What
turn?
now?
I think whatever he picks, he plays this turn, right? With
Also
the
true,
knowledge of
also
double
true.
weapon removal from
Yeah.
che0nsu, he can't just equip a Collider and pass.
You're probably right.
Which either way, Devastator is the bigger minion. Clockwork does shuffle a bomb, and your opponent generally does want to draw in this matchup.
Yeah, I guess you're probably right. It's Devastator in play at this turn.
I must choose.
Save the best for last.
Flurry again, though, feeling like he just has to clear the board in the face of Conjurer's Calling or Khadgar Conjurer's Calling, or even just having a minion in
My
play.
calculations are flawed.
He's
Faster.
feeling the heat.
Strap in. It's gonna be a blast.
Oh well.
Honestly,
luck next time.
that's kind of average. I think like a 5-5, I would say, is just under.
Yeah, frustrating because of this weapon though.
Yes.
Because they just kill each. Normally there's a big one and the 5/5.
Like there's a lot of 5/6s as well with Barisa and Guardian of Kings and all that stuff, but about 5 attack I'd say is pretty reasonable.
That belongs in a museum.
However, even though that was very sad for che0nsu in terms of just having his board cleanly dealt with, this is a very nice way to pull himself back in this game. As long as he continues to have threats to develop, che0nsu's just looking great.
Yeah, even as the Ray of Frost now, if he really wants, he's going to go for the Conjurers. It's a double 5 drop.
That's pretty good.
Reasonable, reasonable.
There is a there is another Super Collider, should Flurry wish to go for that. I imagine he will. His health total is not his concern at all right now. He just needs to make sure he can continuously clear and pray that che0nsu has not found the other weapon removal in his deck in the ooze. And he can breathe a sigh
I was
of
even
relief.
partly surprised he even traded then, to be honest.
It's in keeping with his game plan, right? Like, he doesn't want to be met with too big of a play on board.
But he has Brawl.
That's
I
fair.
just push 4 damage, make him trade into you. You still get the value trade on your side.
This is interesting now.
He has too much removal. If he plays the Devastator, he can't play BG. Well, he can, but it's bad. He's just seen a Conjurers.
I've got the beast in my
Take down the Siege Giant on push.
Absolutely. It's definitely the way to go. Like, you don't want to develop Glassmaster Boom and be met with Khadgar Conjurers and then have to brawl away your own.
Right.
As I was saying, as long as che0nsu has ways to develop, he should be fine. He'd kind of run out, despite having a very, very full hand, has to start digging with the Luna. Now he needs to consider, does he want to keep drawing with the Giant, or does he want to save that for a big Khadgar Conjurer's turn?
Well, the worry now is part of this game has played out the way it has because che0nsu just played the Giant and hoped it wouldn't die.
True.
And it did die. So these Conjurers that he's used so far have been mediocre at best and not the powerful turns. So Flurry's sort of half responses to a lot of these minions have been enough. Now there's another Giant out. Now Flurry just brawl. Oh,
He can just devastate it, right? He doesn't even have to sacrifice his own board off.
that's true.
Like, he wants to save the brawl for when things go very, very wrong, I think. And this is not that wrong.
What now?
I'm not bothered he's about Luna. It's a little bit frustrating because Luna can lead you down the path of game into those bad situations.
That's true. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. Leaving up Luna can be very, very... It can be very bad.
Maybe, what about Boom Warpath? How many bombs are there? There must be enough bombs to fill the board a little bit.
Can he ever go triple Warpath, swing, 2 more Warpaths? That does clear the board. If he swings into the Giant, into the Luna, because that does 3 damage to it in addition to the 5. But at that point, maybe he should just brawl. However, brawl stays better later on.
It's a weird turn, right?
Really
it's a
weird
turn that's just almost everywhere, right? It's like every outcome is almost just good, but almost not good enough. He's choosing to lose. I feel like this is just the straightforward level 1. The least bad things will happen if I do this play. And if you're ever unsure, you should probably just do that.
Speaking of things that can go wrong, though, this is kind of this is 1, 2, and 3 on terms of things that can go wrong.
Tools of creation.
Magic Trick can be used to shuffle a card to the right-hand side to keep drawing, without having to burn cards with the Banana Buffoon. I guess che0nsu actually just wants to hold on to his cheap spells to go with Antonidas. And maybe he should have held on to a Sorcerer's Apprentice in order to combo with the Antonidas. Interestingly, because he could have still gone with a Magic Trick again to keep the draw going.
So, yeah, it's tough. Maybe it was just a bit too quick. It's awfully tempting to just double slam Sorcerer's Apprentice and go.
And he's throwing down a lot of these cheap spells.
Maybe he's just okay with this. But my worry is if he does all this and then...
Cyclone, wow.
Yeah, refill his hand.
Easy. He's got so many cards in hand though, man. He's only getting 3
Fireball.
cards. Wow.
Storm, Cinderstorm.
Whoa. Those are some very, very good cards to get there.
Behold the tools of creation.
Oh, did he just conjure us into another Luna?
He did.
Nice.
This is all super easily dealt with, though, by the Warpath, which does not obviously is not to say that this was a fruitless play from che0nsu, because it drew him closer to the Astromancer in order to combo with the cards in his hand. But like, I honestly feel like there was a lot of pretty useful cards there for che0nsu that were eaten up, because look at his hand now with no Banana, no Magic Trick, no Sorcerer's Apprentice. He's going to get Antonidas at some point, and it's not even that good anymore.
Yeah, I feel like he basically had a turn that was equal to having a very high-powered car. You put a lot of gas in the tank, and then you drive for 2 miles, and then it's ran out.
Right.
So I feel like that's what he's done here. He had a huge turn, which looks great and feels good.
Yeah.
But then after that, you're like, oh, I don't really have much mileage in this deck and in my hand that's left.
Exactly. And then similar to the car situation, a wizard comes up to you and says, "What are you doing, mate? I needed a lift. You used all your petrol. What are you going to do?"
Yeah, Antonidas often needs a lift. He's one of the most powerful wizards.
No idea what
He's alright. Still Azu.
Sorry, mate. My car's in the shop.
Broom.
That's a
That's a really weird minion. Yeah, I'm
very,
looking at
very
it
weird minions. I'm looking at that like, Batterhead? Does that do anything ever?
Yeah.
I mean, it's durable.
It does great versus Boombots from Dr. Boom. Just keep killing them all.
Is Batterhead overkill, or just if it kills a minion, it can attack again?
I think if it kills a minion, it attacks.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You just kill all the bombs and soak it all with the health. Anti-Boom. It's not like his parents, brother or sister or anything. Anti is in opposite or against or whatever. Yeah, Anti-Boom.
You're 2 from the north. You're anti-boom.
Do you not say that in the South?
We say auntie, right? It's
Auntie.
an elongated A.
Auntie. Flurry's just trying to work out what to do against all of this health.
I mean, the solace for him is that he can take a couple of turns of damage from this. He doesn't have to respond with removing it all right away.
I wonder whether he wrench calibers and swings face. che0nsu's on 6
Surely
cards.
not.
One of them's a bomb at least.
That's a good point, actually.
And then you have Brawl
Blastmaster
and
Boom.
Blastmaster Boom.
Maybe.
I think he should have just, look, he's only taken 11. He can just Brawl next turn. He gets another swing of Wrench Caliber, which is another bomb and another 3 damage.
There's still an ooze in the deck, though, right? So it could be dealt with pretty easily. But so can the Super Collider.
Yeah, and great. Your opponent spent 2 mana making a 3/2. And yeah, that's it. I don't know. I feel like che0nsu's on low enough health to just go.
Maybe.
I mean, now he can just Brawl Wrench Caliber anyway. Probably, so it's not. Ooh, noises.
Or can he?
Well, not if one of those Tyrion leaves, he can't. Well, he can, it'll just hurt.
Splintergraft with his measly axe probably has to feel pretty puny in comparison.
Time runs out on me.
Gadgets and Auctioneer, definitely not what he's looking for in this instance. Neither is Arena Patron. We're never looking for that card. So Brawl obviously has to come down in some capacity on this turn. We could have seen a Mega Assembly first, I guess, to see if we wanted to throw anything else into the Brawl with it. Just to make sure that neither of the Tyrion survives.
Get that Wrench Caliber equipped.
Really?
Yes.
You can just play Explodinator though, right?
Great. The 3/2 versus the 8/8 and the 5/3 weapon. I don't know.
Well, it
know
gets
Flurry's
damage, right? I guess he'll
so-
struggle to kill the Goblin Bombs.
I don't know. I think Flurry has to end this game pretty quick. And I'm not even looking at che0nsu's hand, the fact there's a fireball there.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not even looking at che0nsu's hand. From Flurry's perspective, I think he needs to go quick, and this is slow.
I think it's close. I think it's a very valid.
He's on like no cards. Maybe he can just do it next turn, but then what if a taunt comes down somehow? I don't know.
And for che0nsu, he is showing absolutely no signs of slowing whatsoever. Tony is drawn, Tony is played.
Also, the Ray of Frost can just freeze the mechs.
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't consider Ray of Frost against against Mage nowadays.
Maybe you're right.
Aha! Aha! Aha!
My, is it just too late?
I mean, it's lethal very easily represented
he has
che0nsu next turn.
He has to equip swing and then, well, Flurry has to just equip the wrench caliber and swing, doesn't he?
Blastmaster Boom, the Boom bots do not have rush. He cannot kill them in any way on this turn.
This turn becomes very simple.
No magnetization. Unless he goes Boom Reaper and hits Ziliax.
Oh, come on. That's still
Yeah,
not enough.
well, I mean, it's something to consider, right?
What now?
But yeah, I guess it's just not enough.
He can't even swing the weapon at a minion because it takes too much damage. You've seen your opponent's got, at worst, double fireball ping, which is 13. If he takes 5 and armors up, it's not enough.
You're right, the Wrench Caliber is the out. He knows that at 16 health, he still just dies.
Oh, even better, he can wrench caliber brawl, right? Oh, it's just one off.
One off of being in the 1 bomb range.
Yeah. See, if he just swung the wrench caliber or this weapon the turn before.
I mean, you're right. Okay, he found the Ziliax, which both denies a swing and gets some healing through to face. And maybe he's thinking this was a higher likelihood of him taking the victory.
I am choosing to not believe it.
Oh no, wait, he's
dead.
just dead.
What?
Yeah.
What?
No, you're right.
What?
Even with
What
the Ziliax.
happened? Yeah, I got confused because basically.
So did I.
So congratulations to che0nsu winning the match. First of all, that's the important part.
Yeah.
As che0nsu looks very happy, and so he should be. But so this is the problem I have when I cast, right? In my mind, I was like, yeah, he can't swing into the minion. He takes too much damage, right? And then because he went for it and got the Ziliax, I was like, well, if he went for it, he must be safe from double
Were there 2
fireball.
bombs in the deck, though? I think that must be his thinking, though, because we were assuming there was another bomb in the deck. He'd drawn the one from the Clockwork Goblin the turn earlier, so maybe there just wasn't.
Maybe there was.
Maybe there just wasn't a bomb played earlier.
But then I go back to my earlier point of you
Should
had that
swung earlier.
Well, you had the Super Collider. Flurry had the Super Collider equipped and
Yeah.
did nothing with it for 3 turns.
True.
And he had the mana to just equip the wrench caliber and hit him in the
Or
face.
even if he'd swung face the turn prior with the Super Collider, it would have been exactly enough damage with a brawl
With the
if
brawl
both the
bombs,
Goblin
yeah.
bombs died.
Yeah. I think at that point in the game, even swinging for 1 is better than passing turns, which you know the game's going to end soon.
It's very
Like
possible.
che0nsu's running out of cards, the game's
Yeah.
going to end. But yeah, really, really crazy game there between che0nsu and Flurry, and that we are just going to go to a quick break, and we'll get ready for the next game. Ready? Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.